Let's be honest. Parenthood exposes everything. The selfishness still in us, the impatience we didn't realize was that deep, the blind spots in our marriage, and the places where we desperately need God. And at the same time, it opens doors to impact people in ways we never expected. But what if this chaos isn't meant to pull you away from God or each other? What if this is where God is shaping and strengthening you the most? 1 Corinthians 10:13 says, "We all experience times of testing, which is normal for every human being. But God will be faithful to you. He will screen and filter the severity, nature, and timing of every test or trial you face so that you can bear it. And each test is an opportunity to trust God more. For along with every trial, God has provided for you a way of escape that will bring you out of it victoriously." If you feel tired, stretched, or like your faith has taken a hit, don't quit on yourself or each other. Don't quit on God. This season of parenthood isn't a setback. It's God forging something deeper in you, building conviction, strengthening your marriage, and shaping your home into a force for change in the lives of others.
The pressure you feel as a parent isn't just in your head. It's real and it's hitting families everywhere. According to the 2023 U.S. Surgeon General's advisory, 33% parents reported they felt a high level of stress in the past month, compared to only 20% of adults without kids. And even more surprising, 48% of parents described their stress as completely overwhelming most days, a rate nearly double that of 26% of non-parents. Based on these studies, parenting isn't just a mild inconvenience. It is a pressure system that often feels like your life is in chaos, and without God anchoring us, that pressure can erode our marriage, drain our faith, and negatively shape the emotional climate of our home. So if you want to rise above the chaos instead of getting buried by it, we must first identify which chaos trap of parenthood we are most vulnerable to.
Here are 3 chaos traps of parenthood that Amy and I have definitely experienced. The first trap is the "I got this" illusion. Trying to carry everything on our own, by ourselves, is one of the most common traps new parents fall into. Our pride whispers, "I've got this. I don't need help." So then we isolate ourselves spiritually and emotionally from God and relationships, trying to manage everything alone. I've done that too many times.
Yes.
But prideful self-reliance blinds us. It hides our impatience. It dulls our compassion. It drains our marriage and cuts us off from the very place God wants to strengthen us in. Ecclesiastes 4:9 says, "Two are better than one because they have a good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up, but pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up." We are always stronger together, not apart. And this means fighting to stay reliant on God through prayer, the scriptures, and being vulnerable with our spouse and spiritual friends, especially as we parent.
Trap number 2, marriage on pause. These traps show up when the demands of raising children start pushing out our marriage. It's not intentional, but it happens quickly. The focus changes to the kids, the schedule, the stress, the fatigue, and before we know it, our marriage drifts to the background. And this is a trap that Ray and I have fallen into many times. Oh, yeah. It is always convicting when Ray tells me he feels like I put our kids above him and that he's at the bottom of my list. But in my self-righteousness, I often get defensive and justify by saying the kids need more and he can take care of himself. But here's the truth. When our marriage is on pause, when we divide and conquer, we create distance in our home. Our kids sense the tension, our emotional connection weakens, our spiritual unity becomes non-existent. The home starts running on stress and pressure instead of strength. Malachi 2:15 says, "Didn't the Lord make you one with your wife? In body and spirit, you are His. And what does He want? Godly children from your union. So guard your heart, remain loyal to your wife of your youth." God makes it clear our marriage, not our children, is the foundation of our home. Our children are not meant to carry that responsibility. God created the marriage to be the anchor, that stabilizes everything else. Godly parenting flows from a united marriage, not a marriage on pause.
You know, the next trap that I've often fallen into is a trap of spiritual isolation. This trap hides behind exhaustion. Too often I found myself saying, I'm so tired.
Yes.
But what I realized is that parenthood fills every minute. The diapers, the routines, the meltdown, sleepless nights, the allergic reactions that our kids go through. And in that exhaustion, unbelief says, I'll get to God later. I'm not sure he'll really help me right now, so I'll have to handle this myself. But later rarely comes. And every delay drains our patience, weakens our convictions, and puts pressure on our marriage. And oftentimes I put pressure on Amy.
Yes.
I've totally lived this. Spiritual isolation didn't hit me with one big decision. It came through a series of small, unbelieving choices I made. Skipping the scriptures and not reading my Bible, or pushing prayer aside, assuming I could manage the day without God. But when God's voice goes quiet in our home, everything else gets louder and more reactive. You know, when we're in this trap, we parent out of emotion instead of conviction. We react instead of lead. We survive instead of making real impact. And eventually we run out of love. Our family gets what's left of us, not what's best. Depending on God isn't about feeling strong all the time. It's admitting we aren't strong enough and turning to God for patience, clarity, and love we don't naturally have in ourselves. 2 Corinthians 12:9 says, But he said to me, My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me. You know, weakness isn't the issue, unbelief is. And God meets us in our exhaustion, not in our self-reliance. That's why we must choose humility, pursue God, and reach out spiritually instead of isolating ourselves. So we can't afford to coast. Mm-hmm. It hurts Amy, it hurts my family when I'm just on cruise control. Mm-hmm. But in our pride, we can't allow ourselves to get into any of these chaos traps because they pull us away from God. We have to choose the path that brings us back to Him. And that's where building with spiritual pillars matter. They're not theories. They're convictions that help us rise above the chaos of parenthood instead of getting buried by it. So here are 3 pillars that have helped us learn how to rise above the chaos.
So the first pillar is God first, not me first. Psalm 127:1 says, Unless the Lord builds the house, the builders labor in vain. Unless the Lord watches over the city, the guards stand watch in vain. If God is not the one building our home, we will exhaust ourselves trying. Real strength in parenting does not come from personality or what we know. It comes from God. And when life feels chaotic, we see how limited we are and how much we need God. And when we turn to God each day by reading the Bible, praying honestly, or asking for help, God gives us what we need. God gives clarity through the Bible, which helps quiet the noise in our mind. God gives patience when we pray to calm our hearts. And God gives strength by reminding us we do not need to face any moment alone.
You know, the next pillar is find your village. Proverbs 15:22 says, If you don't ask for advice, your plans will fail. With many advisors, they will succeed. We were not meant to raise kids on our own instincts or emotions. We need a spiritual village, people God moves through to shape us with the scriptures, to engage us and influence our children. Without that, we settle for survival mode and are often prone to repeat dysfunctional patterns that damage our own marriage and our home. But when we surround ourselves with spiritual mentors and relationships, God goes to work powerfully. God used their faith to strengthen our faith. God used their example to sharpen our parenting. God uses their convictions to help us build a stronger love in marriage. A spiritual village is an essential and primary way God helps us build healthy, spiritual, and fruitful families. And this is something that Amy and I personally experienced, especially raising a son who has special needs. We definitely need that village each step of the way.
Well, but also raising a kid that is in college now and try to
That's right.
enter her next stage of adulthood. We still need the village.
That's right.
And my last pillar is stay humble, stay honest. 1 Peter 3:8 says, Now this is the goal, to live in harmony with one another and demonstrate affectionate love, sympathy, and kindness toward other believers. Let humility describe who you are as you dearly love one another. In parenting, harmonies come when parents stay humble and honest. And these are the foundation of our marriage, that they keep us teachable, ready to listen, quick to apologize, and prevent our marriage from just coexisting. I know when I get exhausted, not sleeping a couple of nights, dealing with meltdowns, feeling the stress of life, it's easy for me to blame and get bitter and critical at Ray instead of being humble and honest about how overwhelmed I feel and admit that I just need help. And these are the moments that we have a choice to choose to rely on ourselves or on God. And the best solution is to pray together.
That's right.
Pride reacts and escalates conflicts, but humility listens, restores unity, and creates a home filled with love. And when we choose humility, admitting our weaknesses, owning our reactions, and asking God to change our hearts, our marriage stays strong even when life is hard. In parenting and marriage, humility strengthens unity and restores connection. And this is how we inspire others to turn to God as well.
You know, God is always there to help turn chaos into change. Parenting brings big shifts and chaotic moments and pressures. But God can use every moment to grow you and strengthen your marriage. Choose humility. Turn to God. Live with purpose by showing others what it looks like to rely on God through every stage, especially through the stage of parenthood. Here's a few questions that we can discuss and make some decisions on. Where have you been relying on yourself instead of God? How will you choose humility in marriage and parenting this week? How can God work through your family's chaos to shape your children, to strengthen your marriage, and make your home a force for change by showing others how you and your spouse rely on God?